All right, Robert, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me on.
So, do you want to talk a little bit about what you did in the military?
Yeah. So I joined the military at the age of 18, fresh out of high school. In fact, I think my basic training was 2 to 3 weeks after high school. Went to basic training, became a combat medic. The recruiter told me that I'll be working in a hospital with a bunch of girls, and so I was down. I was like, yeah, that's where I want to be. And so I joined the military at 18. They sent me straight to Germany, and from there, I was stationed with the tanker battalion. And I stayed in Germany for 2 or 3 years. Went to Kosovo for a little while, a part of, I forgot the name of the operation at the moment, but we were in Kosovo in '99. And then from there, ended up going to Fort Carson, Colorado, where I was a part of the 59th MP Company, a medic for them. And with them, we deployed to Saudi Arabia. In fact, we got to to Camp Riyadh in Saudi Arabia 2 days before 9/11. So that
Oh,
was
wow.
a very surreal moment. We're just getting there, just getting unpacked really, and just to see all that happening and being so far away from home, but also being so near to where we knew that things were about to get hot. So that was an interesting moment. We did end up staying in Saudi Arabia as a part of Operation Enduring Freedom for another 7 to 8 months. But ended up going back to Fort Carson from there. I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, where I got deployed as a part of 3rd ID, U.S. Army. 3rd ID, we marched into Baghdad with the Marines. That was is known as the 21 Days to Baghdad. That was a real eye opener. I knew then that this war and with Iraq at least was real, and it was about to happen, and I was going to be a part of history. So I think at the moment I was 24. I think I was 23, 24, somewhere around there. And then left there, got stationed in Germany again, and went back to Iraq once more, this time to Ramadi, Iraq. And I was again with the first Army Division over in Germany. And we stayed in Ramadi, Iraq, served under the Marines, who I found out they believed everything they knew who they were, and they believed that there was no one out there harder than them. And so
Yeah.
we got in a lot of interesting situations with those guys, and so that my second time to Iraq was when my wife and I kind of decided it's time to get out. It looked like this was going to be going on for a while, and so I got out in 2007, and just went back home to Memphis. I really didn't know what I was going to end up doing, and stayed home for about 2 years, and I ended up becoming a volunteer at the prisons in Memphis, which got me interested in becoming a prison chaplain. And so I went to school, and once getting done with school, I ended up working in a hospital. And so instead of going into a prison, I ended up as a hospital chaplain, did that for 2.5 years, and recently resigned in January of 2020, primarily because of PTSD and the battle with depression, and just all the grief and the trauma I carried. I wasn't able to be that help that I wanted to in the hospital, and so I had to step away from it. And so now I'm here, and starting a new path, a new journey, something that's a little bit closer to home, a little bit more that's on my heart a little bit more, and I'm willing to throw myself into.
So, what would you say the transition period was like for you? Was it really difficult leaving the military, or did you kind of find your way slowly?
Yeah, so it wasn't difficult for me at the time, because at the moment I got out, I had the most difficult part I want to say was the fact that I had a wife and 3 kids, and no training in anything outside of military. And so that's why we ended up going back home to Memphis, where my family, I have a huge family, and I just knew that we would have support there. And so just being around my family, the ones I grew up with, was very helpful for me. And uh, they were just there, and I didn't feel alone or isolated. And so I have a very good family, as far as holding me and everything like that. And so they comfort me. When things really started to get tricky was when I left Memphis and went to school to become a chaplain. I found myself in Florida for a little while, and in Michigan for a little while. And there it was just myself and my immediate family, my wife and 4 kids at the time. And that's when I really started to see the effects from Iraq and everything. And that's when my wife was like, "You need to." She thinks, she think I should go and talk with someone. And I resisted for a long time until she told me, she kind of pointed out that I hadn't made any new friends. Anybody that I consider my friend is all before Iraq, is all before those times, and there's nobody that you've connected with or want to connect with. And I was just like, well, everybody's lame now. And she was like, yeah, that might be true, but you might need to go and just talk to somebody for us. And she started also to show me how I was kind of responding with the kids and not a little bit more aggressive at home, not as patient and things I used to be. And so that was about 6 years after getting out the military, though, but it came regardless. As much as I tried to hide it and stuff it away, it started to come out. And so I started going to counseling about 2014, I want to say. And from there, I'm still in counseling today. I'm still going to talk with the therapist and everything. And so that has helped. But it's been a long journey. It took a long time for me to realize that I too was suffering. I tried for so long to um, act as if I was never even in the military. I never wanted, I didn't want to talk about it. I just acted like
Yeah.
all that didn't happen, and it worked for a little while, but then all of a sudden it didn't. And fortunately for me, my wife, she just kind of stayed on me until I actually went and at least tried to find out if anything was going on with me.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people kind of say the same thing when it comes to PTSD. It was when they ended up by themselves. So whether it was after the service or years later, it was when they finally kind of broke away from people that they started to notice it more. And from what I've learned from people is a lot of times it helps to kind of disperse that pain over a group of people. So when you end up
Mm,
isolated or you move away, I moved away from my family when I went to the military and I never moved back.
mm,
So I always had at least
mm.
a couple thousand miles between me and people I
Wow.
knew. And so I immediately felt it when I left the military because I just had myself and my thoughts. And
Hmm.
so a lot of people, like, if it was great that you had that family support, but it makes sense why it hit later on. But
Hmm.
for opening up about things like PTSD, what was the hardest part for you? Was it more of having that label, or was it just going into the trauma, or everything?
Yeah, it was the label. Well, I think I somehow forgot a lot of the trauma. and and I say forgot, but I literally put it out of my mind. I didn't think about it at all. On the day I got out of the military, I put all my stuff in my bag and I just stuffed it away in the garage, and that's where it's set. I was proud of my service. I developed real connections with people, but I didn't want to think about it, and I didn't. And so, what the hardest part for me was saying I have something that's called a disability now, or a mental illness now. For so long growing up, I always, wanted to show that I was in control of myself. I was smart, I was wise, and I had a pretty good self discipline. And the more I tried to fight against whatever it was that was coming up, and acknowledging that I had PTSD, the harder it became to control myself and control my emotions. And so it was definitely um, allowing that label to be placed on me. I think is what hurt the most for me. Um, and just it took me about a year and a half before I actually believed it. So and the reason I say that is because I was going through the motions. I was going to counseling. I was talking to people. I was going to groups. Um, but in my mind, I was just really just doing these things because they say it'll help me. It was never because I wanted to get better, or never because I felt like I had a need that or I had a injury that needed to be healed. It was always because well, if I go to this counseling, then they'll think I'm better, and I'll be okay. I don't know. So I never took it seriously. It took about a year and a half before I really started taking it seriously. And after that, I was no longer.
Oh, hold on, I lost your got no sound on your end. Hold up. Can you hear me? Let's see.
My headphones just nodded. I had a phone call.
All right.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I guess my headphones isn't working anymore. I apologize for that.
Oh, that's no problem.
Yeah. All
So,
right.
so editing's for.
Yes. 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 Thank you. All right. Do you don't know about when?
No, I don't know when it stopped recording
Oh,
it. So we just pick up where.
okay. Yeah. Yeah. There was a bad distraction there for me. So I did lose my train of thought.
That's right. We got
But
time to get back on this.
that happens. Yes. I remember. Um, it became, I was no longer afraid of telling people that I have these uh, disabilities. I have these issues that I'm trying to work through, and it took me a long time, and it wasn't until I started feeling as if I had some hope that I started really telling people that I was going through this. Of course, my wife knew, my closer family knew, but I didn't share it with anyone else. And again, I think the question was like, what was the hardest part
Yeah.
about feeling is, and it was the label. Yeah, the label and feeling as if I'm not enough anymore, or I'm somehow not able to meet some sort of standard that I should be meeting.
I I received my PTSD label from the VA years after I left active duty,
Hmm.
and I resisted it as much as I could because it was because of something that happened to me after I left the military. And
Hmm.
so I didn't want to tell people that I had it because everybody automatically goes to, oh, well, this is what must have happened to you because you're a veteran. And so there's already kind of this preconceived idea of what a veteran had to go through to have that
Right.
label. And then there was also the side of shame where it was like, how did I end up with this after 6 years of military service? Like, how
Hmm.
did, and so the label for some people is really, it's a hard thing to absorb sometimes more so than the actual treatment. It's just that idea that it almost makes you sound broken when they start saying like disability and this and that. And when you have that military bearing and stuff like that, and that you try to hold that image even when you
Hmm.
leave, and it's kind of like, oh, now it's like it sounds weak, and a lot of people turn
Hmm.
away from it and will give up great therapy and resources just to not have that label put on them.
Yeah, and what's horrible is, from my experience, it wasn't until I accepted, not necessarily the label, but the idea again that there was an injury that I incurred, and there was a way for me to heal from this if only I accepted it and was no longer afraid of saying that yes, this is who I am, this is what I've experienced. And it was in going back and doing that that kind of gave me strength to kind of start the process of healing for real. Taking the conversations I'm having with my counselor seriously. The counselor I'm with now, I've been with her for 2 years, and that's the longest out of these however many years since I started that I've been with one counselor. And I know a part of that was me not wanting to open up or feeling as if I can't trust them with what I was really feeling or carrying. And so that was a part of the process as well, like finding that particular person or setting that I felt, comfortable enough to really open up and share those darker images with or darker thoughts and feelings with.
It's great that you had someone for that span of time, because I think in a year I had 3 or 4, because every
Hmm.
time I'd go back to the VA, it was like we had to move them or we're short. And so like people get shuffled around. And so every time I went in, you basically had to in process. You had to
Hmm.
retell the story because the next person needs to know what's up. And so every time I was going to the VA, it was like bringing it up, bringing it up. And I never got to that next step of like, okay, we've torn open the wound. Now, how do we dress it? Like, how do we fix it? And it was just always digging and digging. And so I gave up on therapy for a long time because it was like, I'm tired of bringing it up and
Right.
not really going anywhere with it. So
Yeah.
it's always great to hear when people can hold on to people,
Mhm.
because it's like there really is a trust factor. You have to kind of
Uh,
build this bond to be able to open up about like your darker sides of your life, because it's personal and it's
it is.
difficult. And so when you keep getting new people in, it's just like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, it takes a while. It definitely takes a while. But you shared something that Vet Park is wanting to address, and so I want to just like plug this real quick. The shuffle that goes on at the VA. Not to speak, negatively or anything about them. I know they're working hard. They are, like, in most VAs is always overcrowded. Like, we there's a
Yeah.
lot of us. There's a lot of veterans. Um, and so one thing that I want to do, or that we want to do with Vet Park, is not replace the VA at all, but to provide veterans with other opportunities outside of the VA system to receive different types of healing and therapy. And um, I call them all alternative therapies, but I mean like equine, music, art therapy, hiking, whatever it may be. In those things, we can find healing as well. And that's what I've been finding out for myself as I've been going on this journey. That the more I kind of engage this other aspect of who I am, the more I'm finding like this joy and creativity, and that's given me the ability to, kind of face some of the harder times and go through the harder days. And also in those where I'm finding that opportunity to be creative at, I'm also finding a community that we're all kind of not wanting to share the feelings or emotions with our words, but when we show each other our pieces or our art or whatever, it's there. We know it. We understand. And so I just that's one of the things that I noticed as I've been on my journey, and that is there are some genuine people at the VA. They want to help, but they all can't because it's so many of us, and we all do deserve like so much better. And so I'm trying to find ways to help.
But I think that's a great way, because I think the veteran community understands that the VA can't fix everything. It's overcrowded. And that's been known for a while, especially since the whole global war on terror. We have a ton of OEF, OIF veterans and more just kind of pouring into the system right now, and really young vets. So it's people that are going to be using the system for a long time. And
Yeah.
knowing that there are some shortfalls and issues, the best thing we can do for each other is learn how to support each other. And like what you're doing with the alternative stuff, because it takes some of the strain off the VA, and we
Mhm.
know better than anybody what we need. So if we
Yeah.
figure out stuff, sometimes the best way is to teach what you've learned to somebody else. And so it kind of gives the VA a little bit of a break. They don't have
Mhm.
to break from them entirely, but you might be able to open up some appointment times for people that are like in desperate need of it.
Yeah.
But it's a big thing for us to be together as a community, to look after each other and really take that whole "I got your six" to another level, because I mean, we depend on each other sometimes more than people realize. It's still a
Yeah.
battle buddy system even when you leave.
It is. It is, and it sometimes it takes, at least it took me a long time to realize that as a veteran. Again, when I got out, I turned my back on trauma. I turned my back on military. I turned my back on my experience. I want to say, not the military. I was always proud to tell people, yeah, I'm an Army veteran. Yeah, I did this, I did that. But the experience, I kind of let go. And the more, again, I started wrestling with what my experience was, the more comfort I found being around other veterans. Even if we, like, I'm in Illinois right now, right outside of Chicago in the western suburbs, and there's plenty of veterans out here from different branches of the military, from different ethnicities and backgrounds. But there are different opportunities for us to hang out, and just being around one another, even if like five of us not talking, we just all sitting there looking. It's very comfortable. Everybody that's fine, and just being around one another. And so when I first got out, I didn't recognize the value in being around other veterans. But now I got out in 2007, so we're about 13 years from me coming out. I'm just now getting to the point where I'm like, I need to be really in community with the people that kind of started life the way I did, through the military and through the global war on terrorism and all that. And so I'm finding that in itself has been a big help that I didn't know about at first.
Yeah, when I got out of active duty and I went straight over to the reserves, and I wasn't happy with it because it didn't feel like the Army, and it
Yeah.
was kind of like cosplay. So I was like, I was a little disgusted. I mean, I'll be honest,
Okay.
but I was also dealing with, I had a buddy commit suicide the
Dang.
month before I got out. And so it was kind of like, oh no, like, this is going to get real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up just disengaging from anything military. And
Mm-hmm.
I was really proud to tell people when I was in the uniform that I served and stuff like that. But
Right.
when I got out, I didn't want to talk about it with people. And so I wasn't around veterans, and I didn't like telling people I had served. And the few people I did tell that I had served, or they found out I served, were kind of like, I don't want to talk to you because,
Yeah.
I had deployed to Afghanistan, and they're just like, oh man, you're probably crazy.
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. That's
you know,
for real. That's how they act.
and so I actually went through like all my gear that was left over, and I threw stuff away and just like
Yeah.
gave stuff, and I just tried to not have anything to do with it. And then years later, I started connecting with some vets, and it was just like, why did I give it up? Because I feel like
Yeah.
it would have made a huge difference if I had immediately gone into a veteran community and was just kind of
Mm-hmm.
like, how can I transition better? Like, I'm struggling and stuff like that. Instead, it was like, no, I'm going to do it by myself. I know me
Exactly.
better. I was really just stubborn, and I paid the
Personal
price
courage.
for it.
Yeah. That personal courage is drilled into us as we go throughout our time in service, and it becomes a part of our character, and so much so that it becomes a pain or a detriment in the
It's
long
a little bit
run.
of a burden.
Yeah, it becomes a burden because we just try to do everything on our own, and it just takes a little bit more wisdom, I think. And we life is our best teacher, and for me, life has taught me that I need others around me. As much as a loner as I think I am, I do a lot better when I'm around others. Um, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of an introvert, but I know that I need to kind of break out of that comfort zone every once in a
Mhm.
while. Like doing the podcast is completely out of my comfort zone, but it keeps
Mhm.
me connected to the veteran community,
That's
especially during times like this when you're not supposed to go outside,
yeah.
like all this
Mhm.
crazy stuff going on. And so it keeps me from isolating myself. So it's kind of like the happy medium where I still talk to people, but I
Mhm.
can still kind of enjoy my introvert life of being at home with my kid.
Right,
And
right.
so, but the big
That's
thing is staying connected.
staying connected. And so another aspect of Vet Park that you just highlighted very well for me, and that is the fact that you're able to do something that helps you heal while also doing something that brings you meaning and brings you worth and brings you value and adds value to the community. And so that's why alternative therapy and creativity in the arts is the perfect thing for veterans because it does those. It connects us. It gives us a way to serve, and it also gives us a way to, for some, provide an income for our family in an environment we're comfortable in without feeling like we're a burden on someone. And so when I was working in the hospital, I was, even though I was a chaplain, I always came across kind of rough. People were like, wow, I can't believe you said that. I'm like, what? But I was around a bunch, and the nurses and the healthcare team, they are very tough people. I'm not at all. We see them now; they are heroes during this whole COVID thing. So none of that is what I'm saying. But some of the humor and some of the it wasn't PC in the military. That at least when I was in, it wasn't very PC friendly, and that was okay. And so being even trying to be funny in a professional setting can come across very rough and jagged kind of. And I always felt as if I can't be fully myself. And so I know that a lot of vets struggle with not being fully themselves in the workplace. And if they had some way to put a skill or some kind of talent they had into a business of their own where they could create their own environment, they can make their income and everything, then that's what I want to help other vets do. And so that's why Vet Park, I try to do as much free marketing for serious vet business owners and creatives as I can. And so I'm trying to build the Instagram. That's where we came across one another at Instagram. On the Instagram, just free marketing as much as I can attract to your individual business, because in the long run, it's going to help you provide value to your community, and it's always also going to give you a way to earn income for your family while not putting you in an environment that distresses you or causes triggers and things. And so we can do this together. There's so many of us. And so trying to build this network and let people know about, I guess, the idea and the vision and the possibilities of us like coming together and working together in that way.
So how long has VetPark been around? How long ago did you start that?
Yeah, I started VetPark initially in 2017, no, excuse me, 2018. But it wasn't what it is today. Initially, when I was starting VetPark, I was trying to start it as well, there's a lot of vet service organizations around, and a lot of us are already doing some of the things I want to do with VetPark. And what happened, it was as I was researching and trying to reach other vets, I came across Wounded Warrior Program. I came across Team Rubicon, Team Red, White, and Blue. I came across these other organizations that was doing everything I had in my mind, and I started just participating with them. So for about a year or two, I was just participating in particularly Wounded Warrior here in the Chicagoland area. I've done a lot of things with them. And then I came across another program called Creative Vets. They help veterans get into the arts and songwriting, drawing, whatever. And so I found these organizations that did everything I wanted VetPark to do. And so I kind of sat back and asked, well, what else is needed? How else can we help? And around this time, I started to pay more attention to the whole 22 a day, the suicide rate. I too had a friend, he was still in as well, commit suicide. I was out a few years later, but he and I were very close. But still, it's impacting us all in some ways or another. It's impacting us all. And so I started thinking about, is there a way that we can be proactive instead of reactive with that? And that's kind of where this whole VetPark platform came from, with wanting to provide opportunities for other veterans that may not know they exist. Some parts of America don't have these awesome programs that I'm able to take part of in Chicago, but they may have a local community college that offers an art class or a massage therapy class or something that is creative and active and gets them to use a different part of their mind. And so this isn't like false science or false research. These principles and things that show how much creativity and building and making things help us stop using the part of our brains that circle all our memories and use part of the mind that creates imagination and creates new memories and new feelings and new experiences. And so I'm just trying to bring that whole idea to the vet community and let people know that it's possible. And if things go the way that I plan on going, we'll have the finances available to allow those vets, wherever they may be, to attend those types of classes and those trainings and things like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was talking to Liberty Bell Customs, I think it was a week or so ago, and he does sawdust therapy where they bring in vets to work with wood, and then they give them tools so they go home, and it gives you, and he talked about how it gives you something visual, so when you're down you can see something you created and you can look at it, and they create it together, so it takes you back to a happier day and a happier time. And when I was checking out your Facebook, I saw a quote you put up about how art is our true global language of how it speaks to how we heal, and like it reveals those wounds in us, like the invisible wounds and stuff that's really deep, that's hard sometimes to put into words. And so for someone like me, I always used art well before I was in the military. I went to school for it and did things like poetry, and it really does help you kind of disconnect from whatever's bothering you. And it kind of lets you just kind of get into this almost autopilot kind of thing where it just kind of gives you a break from it. Yeah, I love stuff like that. I always tell people to do things like painting, even if you can't do it, like just the motions, it just helps you focus.
Yeah. And the way I was fortunate enough to find this out, when I was doing my, I ended up going to school for a graduate degree. And while I was there, I just became very depressed. Nothing that would usually make me happy was making me happy. And I started, I think I started looking through a National Geographic magazine, and I noticed nature. And I found an old camera that I had, so I just went outside and started taking pictures of nature, trying to do something like I saw in the National Geographic magazine. And that just opened the entire world of photography to me. And so I got lost in the world of photography for a few years, and that is when I started realizing, wait, I'm better now, because I forgot I didn't have the same thoughts on a day-to-day basis. I was showing pictures showing people what I was creating with my pictures, I was taking pictures of people's happier moments. I started getting paid to take pictures. So that really gave me an outlet. And as I did that with photography, I remembered in high school, I used to play the saxophone. I still had one. So I went and picked the saxophone back up, started practicing playing. It got on everybody in the house's nerves, but it helped me. It didn't sound good, right? It still sounded like I used to play saxophone in high school. But it helped me kind of, I don't know, I was putting something out, and that is all I want to do. And so I started learning how to draw. I started just trying to find more things that I can do that was creative, and it helped me to kind of express myself. Really looking for that one lane that would help make me a famous artist and take care of all my bills, but that hadn't come yet. And so in the meantime, I'm just trying to connect with other artists, especially veterans, connect with other veterans who are artists, and just build this community up. I know we already have community out there, but just trying to add my own vision and view in it as well.
And I think that's really helpful that when people start bringing their own sides to things, because it's like, I mean, I know there's 100 veteran podcasts out there, but I know that there's things that maybe mine will offer that maybe one doesn't. It has the general idea, but you might find something here you didn't find somewhere else. So it's like when you bring in your own view and perspective of something and you turn it into whatever, like you never know who's going to pull from yours that they couldn't find from somebody else's. And so it's like, you can never have too much of it. Like,
you can.
And so I hope a lot more places and just kind of like organizations like what you're doing start taking off throughout the nation, instead of like, I know it's a lot of places are kind of, there's a lot of stuff in California, and it's really California based or Texas based, like these bigger states. But then it's like I'm in the Midwest, so I'm just like, okay, there's nothing in Kansas.
Yeah.
And so you're just kind of like floating, hoping
Right.
you find something, but there isn't anything really. And it's mostly still active duty stuff. And then they kind of shun you because you're not in the game anymore.
Yeah.
So, you're not allowed to play with them or something. And so I hope stuff like yours, it starts to branch out further. So chapters open up or whatever. And so more people have access to it. Cause I think it's really important.
That's what it is. And I just want to let you know, the idea with VetPark is to be a just an online place for veterans to be able to go and find things. So if you're in Kansas, the idea is to have it and it's out there, but I have a different view of it. But you can just type in your 6-digit zip code, 5-digit zip code, excuse me, and it'll show you the local art classes that are around, or computer classes, whatever it may be. And then we will reach out to those people and say, hey, we got a veteran in your community. How much would it be for them to take this class or have this experience? And they would tell us, and we would work it out with them and pay them, and you would be able to go and do that. And so that's the long range picture of what we would like to do. And that way it's not only state based. And in doing this, we want to help those local nonprofits as well, because VetPark I'm trying to build a foundation that is not nonprofit, so that we can help support nonprofits. And so our profit comes, and we give that profit to different nonprofits throughout the year. And so it's not all, I don't have it all worked out on paper that I can show, the details. But we have it in plans, and we are building the foundation. Right now on Instagram, just starting to let people know what we're trying to do, trying to get the message out there, and also inspire people to stop just looking at other people create, but to go out and create something yourself. Because the smallest thing will help. I guarantee it.
Oh, absolutely. I tell the people all the time. They'll see stuff I draw and they're like, I wish I could draw. And it's just like, just do it. Like,
Yeah.
that's really all it is. It's one of those skills where it's like, you don't need really a lot to make it happen. I mean, you can, for the longest time, like before I was in the military, I couldn't afford canvas. I couldn't do anything. So I would get cardboard. I would find scrap wood, and you just draw on it, and you can turn some crazy stuff out of like just recycled goods. But it's like, it's still a process. I mean, it made me feel good. I think everybody is kind of like, I hope one day my stuff can make money. Like, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But it's like, there's that idea in the back of your head that's like, oh, no one's going to buy this. But but it's
You never
still the
know.
process. So I used to just kind of give stuff away all the time because I cared more about making it
Hmm.
than selling it after a while, because I realized that it really did pull me out of some darker periods in my life. And I had friends that would see the stuff I drew or painted, and they're like, that really speaks to me or whatever. So I'd let them have it, and they would just put it up in their house or whatever they do with it. And it was something that helped somebody else. So I got to the point where I was like, well, I mean, money would be nice, but
Yeah, yeah.
it, if it's helping somebody, you can't beat that. That was better than
Right.
money for me then. But I don't really get to do it much anymore because I have a 3-year-old that if I tried to do anything around her, she would destroy it. But it's still
Hey,
there. Like, I know I can. You don't lose that creativity.
no, no. And I want, a friend of mine told me this about 6 months ago. He said that constraint fosters creativity, and what he meant by that was um, kind of like MacGyver. You remember the TV show MacGyver?
Yeah.
He didn't have things, and he had to become creative with what he did have. And so that's a part of being creative. That's the fun part about being creative. We take what little we have, like you were mentioning, like you didn't have canvas, but you found a cardboard box, and so you did whatever you could with it. And that is a part of who you are, and that's what makes that particular piece special. And so now your friends not only have something that you made that they like, but they also have a piece of you now. And I think that that's the part of creating and building that we don't see, but our spirit, our soul feels it for some reason. Like we're giving a part of our love or our creativity of ourselves to someone that we care about, or someone that values it enough to pay us
Yeah.
money, which is great as well. And so that's all a part of, I think, healing, which is giving and opening up. And so that's why I think we also can have this conversation right now, because we understand one another clearly. Yeah.
Yeah. I love when people turn to just like what you're doing, the alternative therapies, because there's so many levels to trauma that I feel like things like music is one of those big things where you can sit quietly and just have it playing and it just touches your soul, and you can find that song or create that playlist that is for that mood or the pick me up or whatever you need. Like, it's one of those things that it's relatively accessible, even if you can't buy a CD. I don't even know if people use CDs anymore. I guess download, cassettes, like everyone's like, what?
Yeah.
But like, it's one of those things that's accessible. If you can't get it, you can make it. If you don't have an instrument, it's kind of just like art. There's things you can do to create it. And it's
Hmm.
still going to be something that takes you out of that dark period or speaks to somebody else, because I always love listening to things like blues, and some, like, my mom always listened to all kinds of stuff when I was growing up. And it's that genre of music that you can just, like, it's written almost the pain in it. Like,
Yes.
you just feel it.
Good. You
And
do.
it's like somebody understands. And it's that idea of, I'm not by myself. I am not alone in feeling
Hmm.
like crap. Like,
Yeah.
other people feel it and other people survive it. And
Hmm.
that's what I like about art, is that you can see that people are hurting, but they're turning that hurt into something. And it makes
Yeah.
you feel like there is a way to get through that struggle.
Definitely. We talk a lot about, I don't know, in circles around here, I hear a lot about empathy. When I was working as a hospital chaplain, that was one of the main skill sets that we needed to develop, and that's the ability to come along come alongside someone else and not necessarily feel sorry for what they're going through, but being able to understand what they're going through so much that you feel it as well. And in doing that, you're able to speak to them at their level, in a way that they understand that you too feel their pain. And that's exactly what you just described as art. And I think it's beautiful, because that's what art does. You don't need words sometimes. It can be the wave of the sound, or the stroke of the paintbrush, or the color that's used. It portrays these emotions that we understand instinctively. We don't know how, but it speaks to something within us. And that thing that's within us is exactly what needs to heal. We go to the doctor, they give us meds because we have an overactive um, thyroids or whatever. All the, I don't remember all the scientific names of everything. Uh, but we get medications, and that works with the brain, and that helps And sometimes we end up turning to other things that kind of calms the mind down for a little while. But really, the mind is trying to tell us that something is hurting within us, within our soul. And that is what art does. It reaches into what even our mind can't do anything with, because there's something hurting within. And yeah, just practicing art, being creative, and listening or sharing music is all a part of healing. I don't know. It's something that I'm finding is helping me. And if I could keep telling people about it, then that's what I want to do, because I want others to experience the hope I have now. Not that I'm not totally 100% anything. Um, it's a process for all of us, and but I've found that not only has being creative and some of these other alternative therapies helped me, but there's plenty of other veterans that have also benefited from it, and I just want to get the word out. Yeah.
Yeah, what you're saying about empathy, that's one of those things it's difficult to teach. I mean, it's kind of one of those things that there's people that are a little bit more kind of in tune with it or just born with it. And for me, when I tried going through, even before I went into the VA system, when I was going through probably my last year in the Army, when they started giving pills just to like, oh, you have this issue, here's a pill, here's a pill. And I started to feel numb. And I always was someone that based a lot of what I did off my empathy. And I was really big on doing stuff for other people. And again, the art always helped. And when I started taking pills, it was like, you're numb. So it's like, I don't feel anything for anybody else. I don't really feel like I can help anyone. And then I couldn't create art. It was like it created this barrier. And I felt so lost without it. But I feel like empathy for me in the military was kind of, or even just in life, it's one of those things that's kind of a gift and a curse. It's
Yeah,
that
yeah,
idea that you can understand what other people are feeling, but it hurts. Like you hate to see people suffer and stuff like that. So I feel like a lot of us get into what we're doing with the veteran stuff because you know too well what it's like to hurt. And when you have that empathy, you want to keep other people from feeling that same hurt or just get them out of it, because sometimes
yeah.
people, you get stuck in it and people don't know how to get out of that moment. And so it's like doing the podcast. That's why I get people on here to talk about their organization or what they have or resources or just their story, because I always feel like everybody has something to add to this whole survival guide of getting out of the military or just getting through life. And so that's why I really appreciate people like you coming on here, because uh, it's just another page in someone's book that you can kind of
Mhm.
fill for them, because we're all kind of like, it's a process. When you've dealt with trauma and you're healing, it's a day-to-day thing. Sometimes it never goes away and it's just, it's part of your life, but it doesn't have to be you. That doesn't have to be your identity.
Right, right. And one thing that I turned 40 um last month. And one thing that I realize now as a 40-year-old is that life, who I was at 38 is so different from who I am today at 40. Uh, Time not only helps to heal, but it also changes who we are, who I am, and what certain aspects of my past mean to me now. And in doing that, it offers different perspectives. And so, and a lot of times, the things that I was afraid to look back at, now that I'm a little bit older, that I experience more of life and I have a little bit more knowledge and wisdom and understanding, whatever. When I look back at it now, it looks like an entirely different situation, and it doesn't strike me in the same way. And so I'm able to process it differently now because I have grown up, and we all do. And so that's just the encouragement that I want to share with people, that there's hope. There will always be hope. If you wake up the next day, there will be hope that day as well. And I just want people to always remember, at least hold on to that. That even if they're not feeling a certain way today, that tomorrow is going to be a better day.
And I think people sometimes lose sight of the fact that even if you're having a hard time or you're suffering, you're not failing because you're not feeling it. Like if you're having a rough day or a rough patch, you're not a failure for just being human and feeling just human emotions. I mean, struggle is part of what gets people to success. I mean, you have to, go through something tough if you're going to learn any wisdom or have anything to share with people. If everything was easy, Like, what are you going to learn? Where's the
Yeah.
lesson in an easy life? I mean, everybody, I mean, it would be nice, but I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing if I never struggled, because it would be like, what can I tell people? What advice do I
Right.
have? I don't know what it's like to be at
Right.
the gravel bottom, you know?
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, that's the encouragement. That's the encouragement I want like all vets to have, because we all have, not all, but most of us, we've went through something that no other American has went through. We've experienced things and seen things that most humans will never see in their lives. And there's a quote, and I meant to look it up before this conversation because it impacted me. It said, "A mind once stretched can never go back to its original size." And the things that we saw kind of stretched our minds, and it broadened our horizons, and it definitely changed us. And then we come back into a culture where most minds have never been stretched that way. They can't understand or see where we're coming from, and so at times it may make us feel as if we're outcasts or we're hurt or we're broken. But in reality, it's that we've experienced something that their minds can never even imagine. They can see it on TV, but they'll never imagine what that's really like. And so what I think that we can do as veterans is, after we help one another heal, we are the leaders for tomorrow here in America, because we've experienced pain and trauma, and we've seen things that no one else has seen, and that once we heal kind of strengthen us even more. And so I like working out. I haven't done it well as much recently. But one of the things about working out is that the muscle, you have to break it down to its weakest point. And it's there, it's weak, it can't do another push-up, and that's fine. But after you give it some time, it's going to come back stronger than it was before. And that's what I see as us as veterans of the global war on terrorism. We are hurting right now, but if we can hold on together and we can heal together, we'll come back stronger than we were before. And that puts us in a position to be leaders of tomorrow, and those that inspire others to keep pushing through life after they go through whatever life throws at them. Like our experience has been valuable, and it makes us valuable once we are able to heal and grow through that. And I don't see anyone telling vets that, but that's something I want to be able to let vets know, and I believe.
yeah, I fully relate to that whole idea of like, you can't really unsee what you've seen. Like, we are exposed to so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being really angry with civilians when I came back from my combat deployment, because it was like, you have no idea what's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I was mad at them for it, but then it was, at the same time, it was just kind of like, how else would they know? Like, you know, you turn on the news is going to give you a perspective that's usually really far off. Like, uh and it's the watered down version of everything. And so I think for veterans, it's really important too to kind of tell the story of what goes on elsewhere, because other people, they'll never see it for themselves sometimes. And especially things that we saw going over to like the Middle East, it's really hard for people to imagine what's going on, and it's easy to be mad at everybody else when you don't know the full story or the side of
True.
things, or even for civilians to understand why we come back the way we do, or why we're mad or just depressed or whatever. And so I feel like, you know, whether it's through art or music or just talking, you got to bridge that communication gap, because if
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to be able to go see it for themselves, you have to have people understand what it is that you saw, and
Yes.
kind of build a perspective for them that they can understand. And that's where you're right with saying that vets are very valuable, because we have those experiences and those different perspectives, and they're worldly perspectives. It's not
Yes.
just, you know, what you learned in your hometown and you never got out of it. But it's like,
Yes.
it's,
Exactly.
it's, it's beyond what a lot of people will ever experience in their life.
Yeah. And many of us, unfortunately, we haven't been told that in a way that really touches our heart or helps us to understand it, and we find ourselves being kind of alienated from the crowd or from everyday America, and we don't understand it. They don't understand us, and we don't understand them. That gap that you were speaking about. But instead of realizing the value in our experience, we kind of wear it like a weight or a burden or a sort of guilt, and that is what kind of weighs us down on a day-to-day basis. That guilt, that shame, and I want to provide opportunities for people to heal from that. I want us to heal from that. And again, because I know that we can help America, and we, you know, it's just up and down right now. But we have the experiences, we have the people that have compassion, that has heart. We've seen things. We don't want um, you know, just to be prosperous. We want people to be well as well, right? We want to take care of people because that's who we are. That's in our nature to even join in the first place. And
Yeah.
so I want to help us. We got to help each other heal, and that's also why I always share because I saw that you were talking to people that experienced real things and they were willing to share their story. And being a chaplain, or previously being a chaplain, I know the power of telling your story, the power it gives the person telling their story, the healing it offers them. And so anytime someone is brave enough to share it, I want to show other people that bravery as well, because it inspires others to open up and share theirs as well.
Yeah, when I like how you're saying when you started VetPark, it wasn't what it is now. And when I started this, it was just a blog because I hid behind my writing in my poetry because I didn't really want people to know who I was. I was kind of worried how people would take me for being a female vet. Like, what is she gonna know? She can't speak for all
Wow.
of us
Okay.
because she has such a limited perspective. Because I immediately got well, you're a woman, so it couldn't have been that hard. And
Really?
so yeah, and so it was really, and I got it a lot from the VA. So I didn't give the veteran community the chance to show
Right.
me. I made a lot of assumptions based off those few negative reviews I had.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I finally got to the point where I had a friend read my blog and she goes, your story would have a much bigger impact if people knew who was telling it. And I
Mm.
was kind of like, well, I don't know if I'm at that level of showing who I am. And she's like, you're going to catch haters everywhere, but
Right.
the people that matter and the people that are going to benefit the most, they need to see who you are. And you need to
Mhm.
kind of you got the words down, you got the story, but you got to like step out into the light a little bit. And so I finally was like, fine, I'll do the podcast. And I did like, my first 18 or so episodes were just me talking about trauma and struggle and all these things.
Mhm.
Cause I felt like I had to walk the walk before I could bring anybody on and start like, hey, tell me about your trauma or something
Right.
like that. It was like, I had to show people like, you can do it, you can
Mhm.
tell it, and it's going to be okay. No one's going to, you're going to have some people that are going to be like, you can't talk about that. I definitely did. But the
Mhm.
vast
Yeah.
majority of people are going to really look at you almost in awe of being
Yeah.
like, wow, like if you can do it, I want to believe I can do it too. And that's
Exactly.
why for me in the veteran community, it's never been about competition. Like I'm
Mhm.
not trying to outdo anyone else as a podcast or anything like that. It's all about share what you know and
Mhm.
get everybody else's stuff out there and get everybody talking and get everybody opening up, because the suicide epidemic, like it bums me out. I don't want that number to go up. I wish it would go
No.
down. I mean, it
Right.
seems to be pretty stuck where it's at, but it's like, this is what I feel I can do to get people to realize like you can talk about it. You don't have to
Mhm.
bottle it up. And like you said, talking about it, it's a release. And I've had
Mhm.
people that after they come on, they're like, thank you. It felt like therapy. And
Mhm.
it's like, because
So,
I'm not here to try to I'm not here to like give anyone labels or tell anything. It's just like, I try to just keep it conversation and show people like, you're not going to be looked at any differently. Like you're
yeah.
still a veteran in my eyes, still be proud of your service and uh, not really impede each other's ability to reach out.
Yeah. 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 Not at all. And I didn't know that you wrote poetry. That's something I didn't know. And so I would be glad to take a look at that as well anytime you get a chance to share it. Um, and so, yeah, I'm glad that you did listen, though. That's um, a part of recognizing that we we there are areas in our life that we need to heal, and that's using the ears to hear what other people are telling us about ourselves. Before I listened to my wife and actually went to counseling, it was you're acting this way, you're acting that way. I was kind of defensive with it, like no, that's not true. And it wasn't until I listened, and like you with your friend, and you listened, and then you took this next step, and now you are really impacting. You're letting stories be told, you're letting stories be heard, and you're helping people heal who will never have the courage to do what you're doing. but you are doing it. And so that's why I thank you. And that's why every time I get a chance to see that you have talked to someone, I want to share it with my small community as well, because we're all over the place. And a lot of us are still hiding in the shadows, and that's fine, as long as you heal there as well.
And I feel like a lot of people feel like you have to have this big story that's going to impact tons of people. And really what it comes down to is you just need to say something and it could just help one person. And that's still one person. And if we each did that every day,
Yeah.
it's, it would make a huge impact. You don't have to hit everybody with your story. You just have to hit a few people, maybe one or two. And maybe that story you tell, there's parts of my story that I know people can't relate to, but it doesn't mean the next thing I've experienced isn't going to help somebody out there. And more often than not, I think people give up when they don't get any feedback. And what I've learned is that, I mean, we're kind of a quiet community, surprisingly. I mean, where if something touches us, we're not really big to go tell everybody. And so you never know who you're helping. And so I just like, anyone that's trying to open up an organization or start their own thing, the important thing is knowing that someone out there is listening. So you just got to keep doing it and don't quit because a few people don't like it. A lot of times people that don't like it are struggling over something themselves, and they're just throwing that anger or whatever they have at people because they don't know where else to direct it. And so I think it's really big that I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what everybody that comes on here. Like, I love meeting other veterans, just hearing what other people are doing, because it inspires me to keep going.
Good. Yes. Yes. Same here. Same here. And I will always share anything you're doing. I will share it with everyone I can as well. Please believe that.
I appreciate that. Do you want to put out any contact stuff or anything, like plug wherever they can find you, Facebook, Instagram, wherever?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. Right now, again, we're focused on building the community on Instagram, just to have that one centralized point. We do have a website. It's www.vetpark.com, and I'll write it down. It's www.vetpark.com. But Instagram is the place to go right now. We have a Father's Day raffle going on for those that are interested, if this will be up in time. You can get your dad a raffle ticket for the opportunity to win a grenade-shaped end table that was built by a U.S. Marine Corps veteran.
I saw those. Those are really cool.
They are cool. They are cool. And so, yeah, we're working with them. And these are one of the things we're doing is like getting opportunities for creatives to put their gifts out there and show other people. So we're having a raffle, giving away one, but thousands of people are seeing the work that he's doing. And so he's getting, just our business from that. And that's the idea. That's the vision. That's what we hope to bring to VetPark. And so, yes, we're doing the raffle. Instagram is the best way right now. I'm always on Instagram. I love it because it shows so much broad spectrum of creativity and people and everywhere. And so, yeah, Instagram, VetPark. That's the main place to go right now.
And for anyone that listens to this, I will put it in the details so they will be able to see where to contact, where to go. Before we end this, is there any advice you would like to round this conversation off with?
I am a spiritual person, and my advice is to trust that being outside of yourself that's more powerful than you to straighten out your course, or to help you straighten out your course, because I think that there were a lot of spiritual things that happened or took place that led me to the point I am today. And it wasn't because I made all the right moves, but because I listened at the right times. And I think that that it was God leading me through that time. And so just hold on to something that is bigger than yourself.
Well, Robert, I want to thank you for spending an hour with me on here today. I really appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate it. I look forward to spending more time with you and seeing your growth and seeing all the impact that you have on everyone.
Well, we'll definitely keep in touch. And if you ever want to come back on, I mean, we don't have limits on anything. We don't care.
Okay.
If you ever have anything you want to talk about, you just let me know.
I appreciate that, Lonnie. Thank you very much.
All right. You take care.
You as well. Good night.